We are back in the club today. I'm your host, Chris Jager, joined by our lovely guests, Briana Maturi, Director of Student Transitions and Success at Loyola Marymount University out in lovely California, and Trinity Jones, Assistant Director of Student Transitions and Success at Loyola Marymount University, also in California.
Welcome in.
And we have Adam Sochinsky here on the second chair.
Thank you. Welcome in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think anytime we have guests from student affairs and anyone in that section of a campus, it's always important to understand really kind of what you're doing. And you think about student transitions and success. Why is that work so critical to that campus experience and what you're doing on campus?
Yeah. Well, so, I've been in the field now, scary enough, 25 years. And I think the key to student affairs in general that people sometimes don't realize is that out of your student experience of college, students spend 80% of their time of college outside of the classroom. And the majority of those experiences are somehow impacted by something within student affairs. So that could be clubs and organizations, it could be counseling centers, it could be student health, it could be athletics, it could be recreation. And so if you think about the total impact on students, student affairs is really critical. And specifically with our area, in student success, student transitions and success, we specifically deal with prevention and awareness education, which, in this climate, for us, prevention and awareness isn't just about checking boxes, but it's truly helping students engage in really challenging topics that are critical to life right now and figuring out how are they going to engage with those topics, not just on campus, but beyond. Mm-hmm. And then we deal with really important populations, veteran students, transfer students, sophomore students. We deal with family weekend. And so these can all be very critical transitions, whether it's, a sophomore student who's been, we call the campus the Bluff. So whether it's a sophomore student who's been on the Bluff for a year, but now they're kind of in this wow, as a first year student, I got all this attention and now what? Or a veteran student who has, been in active military, they typically are coming from a community or city college and now are here at what our school is a pretty traditional 4-year institution. Yeah. And maybe surrounded by a lot of more traditionally aged students.
I was going to say, I know from my youngest cousin just left the Navy and he's wrapping up his senior year at the university he's at. And similar thing where there's this huge age gap now, though, between him and his peers that he's doing his broadcasting with.
Yeah, and I specifically work with veteran students, creating events, so they can have their own space to kind of connect with each other since they have that very unique experience of being older than students and having, graduated high school and then taken some time to serve and then come back to school. And then also working with them to make sure, since a lot of them are commuters, since they're older students, making sure events are more during the day so they still have time, because mostly for first years and stuff, their events will be later at night since it's easy for them to just walk from their dorm, but a lot of veterans don't live on campus. So talking with them and seeing what times work best for them and making sure they have a good experience on campus.
Absolutely. I mean, that's critical, and that's at the heart of what being a student at a university should be, is having that university have your back, and sounds like that lives and breathes with y'all.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned also transfer students. Just curious, have you seen a rise in transfer students versus traditional, kind of straight out of high school?
I don't know that we as an institution has necessarily seen a significant rise. I do think that we have put more efforts into partnering with the city and community colleges within the greater metropolitan area to create pipelines. Yeah. I think that's really important. A lot of our state systems around the country will have more formalized pipelines from the city and community colleges into the state schools. But for a private institution, it's certainly something to be more intentional about. So we have been more intentional. We work, our other staff member works really closely with transfer admissions to make sure that it's really a seamless experience. And similar to what Trinity was sharing about veteran students, depending on the transfer student, they might be coming from, some may be coming from another 4-year institution, so they're kind of right aligned with their peers if they're coming in as a sophomore. But there might be some who are coming in, maybe they started school later in their career, maybe they're coming, depending on the cultural background of their families, they'll never live on campus because they can't imagine not living within the ecosystem of their families. Sure. So to Trinity's point, you have to think about what time are you doing programs? If all your programs for transfer students are geared toward that traditional 18 to 23-year-old student, and you're not taking into account the transfer student who lives at home, who helps contribute to the family's income, who has to, and in Los Angeles, you could live 9 miles away and it could take you an hour to get to school.
Yeah, of course.
So you really have to take into account, that experience for students.
A lot of logistics that you're coordinating there, not only the events and the experience, but also just making sure that it makes sense for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Now, you also mentioned Family Weekend as something that falls under your umbrella. We see on the Club Color side quite a few interesting projects come through that are related to Family Weekend and just family engagement, and really to your point of the student and the family unit as a whole, engaging with them in a different way. What are some things you're seeing with Family Weekend that are unique to LMU or that you're just excited about right now?
Oh, yeah. Well, Family Weekend is a fun time. It is a lot of work, but it's well worth it. I truly am of the belief, right? Yes, we are in student affairs. It's in our name, right? We are about the student experience. But for the majority of our students, family is part of that experience, right? It's where they came from, or depending on the student, maybe it's the impact of not having family and how that's impacted their journey to campus, right? And we're an institution, that is not inexpensive to attend. And so we want to make sure that families know that a couple of things, that one, we are catering to their students. We want their students to be successful. We want them to find a sense of belonging on campus. We want them to thrive as much as possible. When they're not succeeding, we want them to know that there are staff and faculty on the campus who are there to walk the journey with them and to help them. And we want them to know that we see them as the family members as part of the community, right? So if we get a call from a parent, we want to be there to help them, understand what experience their students might be having, how they can be part of that process. And for Family Weekend, I really think about it as I always tell families, like move-in, especially for first-year move-in, is about the family, but it's about the student, right? It's about the student getting to come to campus and then the family dealing with the emotions of leaving the student.
Sure.
Commencement is, of course, a celebration of the student and their achievement, and of course also how the families have celebrated them. But Family Weekend is about the families. And I want, whether it's mom, dad, sister, brother, grandmother, aunt, I want the families to come to campus and feel like they are leaving, getting a little bit of a taste of hopefully what their students are experiencing, being a student at the school, and feeling really welcomed and hugged. I had a parent come up to me at Family Weekend this year, and she said to me, I've heard you speak at a couple of the events, and I just want you to know, I truly feel like I've been hugged by this campus this weekend.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's
She's like, I feel like I feel the embrace, and I feel welcomed and I feel part of this community. And that's what Family Weekend is all about for me.
During that weekend, is there a specific event that everyone looks forward to, or is it just the celebration as a whole where it's like, hey, it's just a long week?
I feel like lip sync is one that a lot of
Lip-sync, there we
families
go.
look forward to. Yes, it's like the fraternity and sorority life. They'll do a fundraiser for, I'm forgetting which foundation it's for.
Yeah, they choose a different philanthropy each year, depending.
Yeah, but just seeing how many parents and students and just like friends of friends show out for that event, and they get so excited to see them do their performances. And it was my first time getting to witness it too, and it was such a
So was it the
great
student
experience.
and the parent that do it, or just the student does it?
Just the students and
Got
the
it.
fraternities
Cool.
or sororities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's fun.
Yeah, it's a competition between our sorority and fraternities, and so it's a lip sync and stroll off. And it is, like Trinity said, I mean, you see parents throwing flowers on stage, and some of the chapters are clearly have a dance major in there who are very talented and have choreographed this. And then there's some chapters who are just there for the fun of it, but it is a fun event. We have usually have the audience anywhere between 3 to 5,000 people in the audience, depending. I mean, they have raised
That's really cool.
upwards of over $60,000 some years. So it's a great event. And one of the philosophies that we have with Family Weekend is we try to create events that are that the students are really curating, right? So another example is we've partnered with our dance department. They have their annual student choreographed dance showcase. And for the past 2 years, we've partnered and have them be one of the evening events during Family Weekend. And so these are all, we have a very strong dance department. We have a very excellent College of Fine Arts. And so these are all experiences that these students who are not only performing, but they're choreographing. And if we have it on a random Thursday night in the academic year, families might not be able to see it.
Yeah.
But for them to be able to do it during Family Weekend and their families get to see, it's not just a culmination of their student experience outside of the classroom, but it brings in what they're learning inside the classroom, right, to see these dance students. We have, during usually our Saturday, we do like a spirit showcase, we've called it. And we've had our programming board and our student government host different things. So the winners of the programming board's competitions, the best a cappella group, the best open mic night, the best. So have students just perform while there are food trucks surrounding them. And so that students, again, we want families to have a little bit of a taste and get to see what the students are not just experiencing, but getting to participate in.
That's amazing.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool.
That's just
love that.
an awesome event.
Come on out. We'll take everyone. I mean,
That's what I was thinking. I mean, is there content? Are there videos? Are YouTube? Is there things that we can even go check out? I'm sure there's clips somewhere.
yeah, we do. We have some clips and some video recaps, so we'll have to get those.
Just cool.
as well.
Does someone
Please
get a
do.
prize for like the best
So
performance?
not during well, that's not true. It's lip sync, yes,
Yeah.
they do. The dance showcase is not a competition, so that's just,
That's just like
everyone wins. The
Show off your talent.
Yeah,
Yes.
The audience wins.
The
Chris.
audience, exactly. And honestly, I don't
Families
even
win.
know what the winners get for lip sync other than bragging rights
Yeah,
on
yeah.
campus.
That's really
I mean,
it.
I
I
think
mean,
they,
that's
I
probably
think
the main-
they get
That's what you
something.
need.
Yeah, I think they get something. But to be honest, they just, I mean, they erupt in the middle of the audience and run to the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a really special weekend. And, you think about 25 years at LMU, almost 4 or 5 years for yourself, Trinity?
1 year full time.
1 year full
Yeah.
time? Okay.
But
We'll round
Yeah,
up.
3 years as a grad student.
We'll round up. All right. I saw LinkedIn. I'm like, I'm adding this together.
Yeah.
It's time on campus. So when you group all that time together, it's a special place. And for both of you, you've spent a number of years in some capacity at the university. What makes it so special in your eyes?
I think having a perspective both as a student and a full-time staff member.
What a cool perspective. to be able to have, by the
Because
way.
being a student, there are some things like, oh, I wish this had been incorporated, or like as a student, I really love this. So now in the position where I can make those programs or like continue certain programs has been really special. And just seeing the way like LMU cares about its students, and it's always like there's a space for everyone on campus. And especially in student affairs, like as a student, our division was really that space where I felt like I was able to grow as a student and professionally and form connections with like Briana and other people in the office who like genuinely cared about me, not just as a student, but as a person. So that's something like now that I'm in that position, I want to share with other students.
You get
So
to
I feel
give
like-
it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like LMU really has a special place in my heart, especially the student affairs division.
yeah, I come this toward this summer, it'll be a full 20 years for me at LMU. When I started, I thought I'd be there 3 to 5 years. That was kind of my, I was like, I'm going to take this job at this school in LA and, move across the country, and it'll be a good kind of next step for me. And here I am 20 years later. So for me, it is, I would say 3 things. And I think those things are all tied together by the number one thing, and it's the mission of the institution. So LMU is a private Jesuit Marymount institution. We're unique in the fact that we have 3 sponsoring orders. So we have the Society of Jesus, we have the Religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary, and we have the Sisters of St. Joseph. And at the heart of those 3 sponsoring orders is the university's mission. And at the heart of that mission is education, learning, and being people for and with others. And that really truly guides our work. And I mean that so genuinely. The school that I worked at right before, I loved working there, and I know the mission statement of the university sat on my desk. I can't tell you what that mission statement was, and it sat on my desk. But at LMU, I remember interviewing and thinking, okay, this kind of aligns with why I got into this work, and what drew me here. And that's, kind of what drew me to the institution. And the fact that is what continues to drive my work today. It's when I'm building programs, when I'm, working with others, I'm thinking about our mission and how that's guiding where we're going. And I I love my colleagues. I truly, we were talking about this in the office the other day. You know, I feel so lucky that even if there's a day that I look at what's coming up and I'm like, oh, what a day this is going to be. I know it's going to be an okay day because if nothing else, I can turn to my colleagues and be like, oh, I really like these people. And then the student, I think the student that chooses to come to LMU, whether they can articulate it when they get there or not, I think at the heart, what's drawn them to that campus is the mission. And if we do our jobs right, I think eventually they can articulate that.
Yeah.
But, and I say that sometimes I, meet up with people that were my students at previous institutions. I'm like, but Briana, didn't you love us too? Absolutely. But there's something about the LMU student, and they are a special group of people. They make me smile. They challenge me. They make me want to be a better professional. And and that's truly what's kept me there so long.
And you think about how the mission is at the heart of everything you do then. I mean, we hear this from other, private institutions, and I think it's a little bit of a different mindset, just is. And it's a lived reality that bleeds into everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're doing it right, it bleeds into everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
And, we talk about, there's a lot of conversation nationally in higher ed right now about enrollment management, about admissions, about numbers. And for me, I truly believe if that we continue to stick to our mission and follow through, give the students the experience that our mission promises, then hopefully that's going to help. That's going to be what helps us through, our enrollment management continue to be successful, and even though we don't work in enrollment management, I think it's our responsibility to be good partners to our colleagues there because they're out there recruiting students. But if we don't follow through and give students the experience that they've been recruited for, then, so it really is an important thing that if we're all doing it together, that can really guide that student experience.
Yeah. You talk about that relationship, right, with you in admissions or enrollment, right? We talk about it internally here at Club Colors all the time, right? So they're going to be working to get those new students to come to campus. Eventually, at some point, they pass them to you guys to make sure that experience is great. And eventually, you guys will pass them off to that alumni department to make sure that after they're done at LMU, that experience and the pride still bleeds through as well. So I think it's just really important to work together and have each other's back and really build that connection together.
And I think we see it from a merchandise standpoint too, where you think about the brands that are always resonating with people, and this mission-driven aspect of it. People see through that. If a company's saying they're one thing and then doing another thing, like people don't want to buy it, or they seek it out because they have a mission that aligns with their values. And I think anytime you have that mission tied to it, the work you're doing, staying true to it is so essential. So kudos to you guys for doing. Keeping that front of mind, and keeping that at the heart of what you're doing. And
what you're saying though is so true in terms of like promotions but we get, and this is again what I love about our students. They will challenge us if they see you partnering with a company or an organization, and they don't think that company or organization aligns with the university's values. They're going to call you out on it. And so, as a staff member, you are responsible. To those students, right? I always remind people that at the end of the day, whether you are student facing like Trinity and I are, and out there creating experiences for students, or if you are a university accountant who works remotely and has never been to campus, if our students stop having a good experience, they're going to stop coming. Yep. And then we're all out of a job, right? And so whether you're student facing or not, I think it's our responsibility. And students will, if they are like the university is working with XYZ company and that company doesn't align, they're going to call you out on it. And so it becomes critical, whether it's promotion stuff, whether it's vendors that we're using for, software or other items, that, you need to make sure that you're working with people who buy into the university's mission, because that's what the students expect of us.
Yeah. It continues to become a complex world in that way. But, you think about all the things that make LMU special. One of those unique things is going to be the geography of where you're at. I mean, you're in California, you're in Los Angeles, major metropolitan area. How does being located in that area help, shape that student experience? Because it's a unique asset to have.
I think one unique part of campus, since it's in LA, that we emphasize on campus is the bluff, which is kind of like the back of campus where students walk along there and you can see all of LA. Honestly, you can see the ocean and downtown and everything. And I realized especially around the time I was graduating, like that was one of the things myself and other students would reminisce on, like that time in the Bluff. And it's just like so beautiful and like, I don't know, just a very essential part of campus. I feel like when I talk to students, like that's one part they reminisce on the most.
Yeah. And again, to connect it back to the mission, most Jesuit schools around the United States are positioned in metropolitan areas. Yes. And the reason for that is part of like our mission is the service of justice and the promotion of faith. And what that means is that as a faith-based institution, we're not just a faith-based institution for the purpose of faith, but the values of the Religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary, the Society of Jesus, the Sisters of St. Orange, is to be out there with the people, to be making the world a better place. And so when you're in a metropolitan area like Los Angeles, we as an institution have a responsibility to the community, the greater community around LA. And our students are very committed to service. We are, as an institution, committed to, Trinity can speak about, she has a degree from our School of Film and Television, and, we're located there in Los Angeles. And, what does that mean, not just for connecting with the local film and television industry, but then thinking about the greater social justice aspect of connecting to those industries. So it is, a really unique place to be. And then the flip side of that is there are lots of schools in LA. So if you just want to be in LA, LMU might not be the place for you, but if you want to be at a special place in LA, then LMU is the place for you, because it is, it does offer a great size of an institution. And I say that as someone who I have a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD, all from large state institutions. Sure. And so if you had asked me, when I was a college senior getting into student affairs, where am I going to work in the future? I would have told you, a big state D1 school. And here I am at LMU, and I love it. Yeah. And I can see why there's such value to that in the undergraduate and graduate experience. And I'm a huge fan of all three of my alma maters. So, but I can see where the benefits are for that. And so, so there's something special about being at that size of an institution. Again, it goes back to student affairs, right? You're not just going to be a number. You are a student, you are a person first. And so we want to be there to support you in all of that. And then I think another, I think another really unique thing about being at LMU and serving our community, Trinity and I have the great, I would say, privilege and honor of overseeing a campus, maybe the favorite campus program, which is Wellness Wednesday. So, Trinity, you want to talk about how that serves? How does that serve the Los Angeles community?
Yeah, so it really serves the community. One, I feel like so many students look forward to it. So it's a big event we have every Wednesday. It's kind of like a giant farmers market. So we work with local vendors in LA. So food vendors, clothing vendors, jewelry vendors that show up weekly. And not only like local vendors, but we also have student like vendors who maybe like make their own art or jewelry or clothing that they'll sell to other students. And then we also have like clubs and organizations and departments that are there, maybe like promoting their own events or doing fundraisers. Or like we'll have the study abroad fair like once a semester and students can sign up there. And it goes on from 11 to 2 every week. And so many of the vendors like come up to us too and just talk about like how much connection they've had with students, like being there every year and meeting a student like their first year and then getting to see them graduate and a student being like, oh, like we have a Dutch pancake stand. And a student was like, that was my favorite part of like being at LMU, getting to see you every week and get your pancakes and like,
And to Trinity's point about them being local, they're all family owned.
That's awesome.
And local and either BIPOC or woman owned businesses. Mm-hmm. Sure. So it directly gives back to the local Los Angeles community. And a lot of these vendors who are there every week, until we started Wellness Wednesday, had never been to LMU, and so, and now the exposure that they've had, and so when you think about brand and name, we have one of the vendors who was at one of the community colleges and was, because he's been coming to LMU now for 4 or 5 years to work every Wednesday, had exposure, and he knew that eventually he'd be transferring to a 4-year institution, and this year decided, why not apply to LMU? And so now he's starting this semester as a transfer student at LMU. That would not have been the case had he not been exposed to campus because of Wellness Wednesday. And so we've had a lot of the vendors who've said that. Yeah. They're like, wow, I've lived in LA my whole life and have never been here, but now I want my niece to come here.
Yeah, very cool.
So so it not just exposes our students to, as we said, Los Angeles is not the easy place to get around. Even if you have a car, it can take a long time. So it gives students the opportunity to engage in local businesses they might not get to otherwise. But it also allows, the campus to open its doors to local LA folks who might not have otherwise been to campus before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's amazing. And you think about the exposure then with the community that isn't familiar with LMU. You're then getting them connected with the brand, which in turn is then connecting them with the mission.
Absolutely.
And it all comes together in an event like Wellness Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Outstanding. You think about, you mentioned it earlier, you were a college senior, getting ready to start your student affairs career. What goes into that decision? Like, how did you get started in student affairs? Well, both of you.
Do you want to go?
Oh, I can go. Yeah. I mean, I would say, for me, student affairs. First of all, student affairs, unless somehow you're the child of a student affairs professional, nobody knows what student affairs is. You don't grow up being like, you know what I want to be when I grow up as a student affairs professional. So in some ways, the majority of us have fallen into this field one way or another. And for me, I was very involved at my institution. I was an orientation advisor. I became the student coordinator of the orientation team. I taught a first-year experience course. I was a student academic advisor for the College of Journalism. My bachelor's degree is in journalism. So, and I was just exposed to so many incredible, what I now know are student affairs professionals. And I'll never forget my junior year, my fall of my junior year of college in a one-on-one with the assistant director of orientation. And as I said, I was the student coordinator. And she said, Briana, what are you going to do when you graduate? I was like, that is such a mean question to ask.
Question.
To ask a junior in college. And I was like, I guess, I'm of the age that like things like magazines still existed in newspapers. I was like, I guess I'm going to get a job like with a magazine or a news, or a newspaper, somewhere here in DC. I went to college in DC. And she said, have you thought about student affairs? And that one question genuinely changed the trajectory of, my whole life. I was fortunate enough to be at a school where that had one of the top graduate programs for student affairs in the country. Because of that, I was exposed to not just other folks in that graduate program who were going to school for student affairs, but a lot of the folks around the campus had graduated from programs around the country that were strong academically. And so I had mentors who said, these are the schools you're going to look at and apply for grad school, and you're going to go get your master's degree. And as a kid from Jersey, I was like, you want me to apply to what state? What is happening? And I found myself at a school that I, again, just like my undergrad, where I got my master's degree, I absolutely love, in the Midwest. And I was like, where am I living in the Midwest? This is crazy. And so
everybody's nice.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, what? There's no ocean. I'm very confused. And so, but yeah, and again, one of the top programs in the country. So I was exposed to other people who were not just into the practitioner of student affairs, but the research. And so for me, it was something that I realized was truly not just a job, but people talk about vocation. It's clearly where I was meant to be. I couldn't have. I really thought I was going to be a journalist, and maybe I will still one day. But. And so here I am, I'm very fortunate to have completed my PhD in higher education. And I think it's a privilege. I get to come to work every day. And to Trinity's point, like when she was talking about the experiences she wanted as a student that she now gets to create, I get to do that every day. I get to sit and listen to students. Wellness Wednesday was my idea. And I used to have to beg people to participate, and now we have people fighting over whether they can get the last table.
Oh, awesome.
All of the prevention and awareness education that we do on campus, I was charged with creating that department. And so I got to sit with students and say, talk to me about sexual violence prevention. What do you need to learn? What do your peers need to hear, right? Okay, let's talk about alcohol and other drugs. What are your peers struggling with? And to sit with the students over these years and create things that truly mean something to them. Again, even on the hardest days, I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world. And I loved college. I loved grad school. I want students to leave loving their experience as much as I did. And when they're not loving it, I want to be there to try to help them figure it out. So I, like most of us, tripped into this field, but it's truly, I think it's where my greatest strengths have, this is so cheesy, but where my greatest strengths have met the world's greatest needs. I feel like student affairs is that Venn diagram of where I've ended up.
I love that.
Yeah.
See,
Follow that up. There you go.
I know.
There you go. You should have went first. You should have said, I'll go first.
Mine is not as cool as that, but I feel like I also kind of stumbled into student affairs because I originally came to LMU for my graduate degree in screenwriting, and I was lucky enough to get a graduate assistantship in the Dean of Students office. So I was working closely with like Briana and Terry and other assistant directors at the time, and I really loved